Okay. Alright, if you're jumping on right now, I'm just a little bit behind. I will explain a bit more, but we're going to start closer to 210, so don't feel like you have to be watching at this exact moment. I'm just sending all my emails. Oops. Let me click the button. There we go. Few more people I have to send this to. Alright, and I am using an 8x8 today, so if you are on and you're watching, you don't have to use an 8x8, but that's what I have. A 5x5 or a 6x6 also will do. Okay, 3 more people and I'm done. Send. I didn't even get my table all fixed up either. So 2:10 is the time. 2 more people. And one last person. Goes so much faster if the little thing would let me click on it. There we go. And the last one. hopefully everyone's getting their emails if they want to jump in. If you, again, feel like having a conversation, you have questions, being signed into your YouTube account, if you have one, it's totally free. That's how you can actually chat and ask me questions. But if you're watching this later, you're just having fun watching it and not writing anything, that's completely fine with me. So we went with the last unicorn. It was a suggestion last month that I kind of wanted to do, and because of all these changes going to the new platform and I'm leaving Patreon, I can't easily just ask you guys through like a blog, what do you want to learn? So please make sure you're watching your emails, because that's how I'm kind of getting a hold of people now, is a newsletter from me and then individually writing the rewards that people got. So if you're on this reward tier, I would continue just send you an email and say, hey, what do you want to draw? But anyway, it got a little quiet there. Nobody was responding until this morning, which is so funny because when you said when you said the last unicorn, I had already been starting it thinking, well, I kind of like that idea from the month before. I didn't really watch the last unicorn. I know I've seen parts of it from growing up around the 80s there. So I just never got invested in it. And anime is not something I was always interested in. I feel like anime kind of came in after I got out of school. That's when it became really popular. And when I didn't know what anime was as a kid, the visuals weren't super appealing to me. They were a little slow. The storylines went a little slow, focusing on people a lot, their faces. However, I can appreciate a good cult classic. And so I was like, no, everybody likes unicorns. Let's do that one. So it's always hard because I know you guys are all different kinds of people and you all like different things. And so picking one of your ideas for the design is quite difficult to do because I want to appease everyone and make something you like. But I know it won't be for everyone every month. So if you ever, don't click with the subject that we pick, this is why it really helps to chime in and give me ideas. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to do this a little differently today because time has been really tough on me. I'm trying to beat the clock every single day. Like, did I do this? Did I do this? Did I make it to the post office? Did I go here? Did I go there? So I'm going to do this as a trace over while teaching. I drew it this morning on Procreate. This is how I do a lot of my large scale, is I draw on my iPad first and then I transfer it from there. So it's still my drawing, it's still me working like I would with a sketch and a pencil, but at the same time it also goes a little faster. It's a little bit more forgiving. Sorry, I'm trying to get my cord to the other side. There we go. So this is how I've been using my iPad, is a nice little light desk. So it's just easier to trace. But again, I still have to do the work. Sometimes I'll trace one character and then I'll just move, over if it would let me. I try to keep it the same scale. So I don't want to shrink it too much or else I'll lose the characters. So trying to find the center is best. I'm going to bring my camera back a little so you guys can actually follow along. And I'm just washi taping the piece down to it. But I'm going to have to screenshot this. So if you ever do this, the program Procreate is not the best for drawing on like a photo. Even this one isn't the best way, but at least with this I can expand it still. And if my hand's on it, it doesn't go away all the time. But when I'm in Procreate, it'll actually like shrink things, make things disappear, and it gets really difficult. So I need to turn on my YouTube channel so I can see what you guys are seeing and make sure I don't disappear. So hopefully you're getting settled in. We're going to use a pencil right now. Any pencil works. If you have an eraser tool, awesome. Let's see here. YouTube. And again, you can watch this through YouTube at any time. This link is unlisted, so anyone that's new, just know that we're asking you please not share it. You pay for these perks. And this is my livelihood, so please be awesome. Please be good people. All right, I am pulling up my station. Why is it not the one I want though? Switch accounts. There we go. And here. So my friend is leaving for Hawaii to go live for a year, and we social distanced and caught up a little bit today before she has to go. So we got lunch and sat pretty far away and, you know, had a conversation, and that kind of ran a little bit long, so I do apologize to anyone that got the email a little bit late. But I regret nothing because I've had this best friend, the longest I've ever had a best friend, and I'm gonna miss seeing her. So, oh, there we go. So that's it. That's why I was a little late today, and that's why we're starting just a little bit later, and it's just about 2:10. So we'll start at 2:10. Again, my chat is open. If anyone feels they have questions or needs to chat, you have to be signed into YouTube. Just a reminder. I am going to run and grab a water really quick. So you guys get settled. Keep it going. Agua. Okay. All right. So I want you guys to, you know, you probably just have a blank piece of paper. There's no sketch pre-made or anything like that. If there is, congrats. You know what we're painting today. So I'm just going to find the center first. And when you're on top, you're pretty good. But if I ever were doing this, see how it kind of pulls the picture. So I have to be really careful with it when I get to the edge. I'm going to center my... Whoop. See, I pressed up there, so it started to go away. All right, the first thing I want you guys to do, per usual, is I want you to divide. Oh, there's my good pencil. Divide down the middle is, as long as it's not too far to the right, too far to the left, you're good. And right down the middle, same thing, just right smack dab in the middle. There we go. So we're making a giant cross or plus sign. I really want my camera to go back more. There we go. It wasn't sitting where I wanted it to. And then you're gonna go to each corner, and again, you draw your little kind of pieces coming out from the edges. So I just draw a little line from the corner, and then you connect those lines to make like a little box. Super light. You wanna be able to erase. Now I'm using a watercolor paper, so you hear a lot of this texture sound when my pencil goes over it. You can use a regular piece of paper, but I do suggest if you're painting, you do get thicker paper for painting. Okie dokie. All right, now I think we're ready to go. So there we are. Zoom in a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna start first with the unicorn because it's on my left and it just seems to be easier to move to the right when I'm done with it. So I'm gonna create just right about, oops, of course, I think it's because it's warm. I'm gonna start with the circle for the head of the unicorn. Now I'm moving everything. Hold on. Thanks a lot, washi tape. Just kidding. Okay, so try to look at where I am on my plus sign. Now, if your plus sign ended up really low, you might have to, you know, adjust things as you guys go because it's gonna look a little different than mine, and that's okay. I'm creating kind of an oval shape. Kind of on its side, less of a circle. And it's good because you can kind of see the character behind it, so it's going to guide you a little bit. All right, from there, when we make a horse, this is something I was taught with face painting. Let me grab a piece of sketch paper. Whenever we did face painting, they would create a circle and a rectangle, and that was your jawline underneath, and you would cut that in half, and then you'd make your little nostril, and then you draw like an eye and 2 ears, and if you wanted hair. Okay, so think about that when we're working, and then we just kind of round out their snout. And that's kind of how we would make horses when we were face painting. It's a great way to break it down. A rectangle and a circle. So for the snout, this unicorn snout is gonna kind of be a little bit thin. So you can kind of see how I'm doing it. So just think, kind of comes to a little bit of a point. This character is a very, I'm trying to think of the right word. I don't even know if I have the right word. very slender in the snout area. So that's why we want to kind of keep it a little bit skinny and small at the bottom, and then it opens up a little bit wider to where the jaw would be. Okay, so we've got the head and we've got the little snout. It almost looks like a microphone coming up at you, that you could hold the microphone. And then right about here, so coming back, you need that jawline, right? We're gonna draw a little bit of a neck coming down. Now we're gonna keep this painting a bit more simple because we have 2 characters on it. So I'm gonna get the basics, and then you guys are gonna try to, you know, plug what you can. Only because with 2 characters it would take a really long time to paint, and it is gonna take some time to paint, but I wanna make sure you guys still keep it a little simple. So at this point we've done the oval, we've done a little bit of a rectangle shape, but it's a hard shape to describe. Kind of comes down for the snout, and then we've got this chest area, it comes down and around. Okay, and then from there we're going to create the horn, so you have to decide where the horn comes out. To me it's really high by the ears for this character, so I'm just guessing because I can't really see through my screen where I drew the horn. I know it's pretty slender and thin and comes up to a point, and it's a pretty long unicorn horn. You'll see some that are like about half of that, but in this one it's a really long horn. If you've ever seen The Last Unicorn or looked at photos, you'll know. And another reason why I've got my little spacer in there so I don't go too far, because if you frame this it'll cut off the top of the horn. You don't want that. So I mean, maybe you do, but for me, I'd rather stop inside where a matting would be if I do mat this. Okay, now we've got the ears, and the ears are kind of, again, a little bit different. They're almost like a little petal, and they're very long and very pointy. Long and pointy. And we're gonna draw the second ear very lightly on the other side, but we're gonna kind of start to see it on this side of the horn, and then just kind of the base of it. So you can even draw through that unicorn horn, if that helps. So they're kind of close. Very rabbit-like. Again, this is what makes that character look the way it does. Okay, and then I want you guys to come back from the top of this, and I want you to create the neck, which is fairly thin. We're gonna use a lot of hair in this. So we're gonna cover a lot of the neck with flowing hair, and the top of it with hair, but just so you guys know. Almost looks like a sea creature. Okie dokie. Now, how you guys want to do the eyes, you can look at it on the computer. You can kind of see what it looks like. To me, I think, oops, I'm using the wrong mouse. Hang on one second. I think I like the eyes closed. It's just one of my favorite things to do. It looks very soft and delicate. However, the eyes for this are very anime, very sweet. So I'm gonna let you guys choose. I'm doing eyes closed. If you want eyes open, you can certainly look at photo references. But I'm gonna create 2 lash areas. So 1 and 2. All right, so one's a little bit more U-shaped. This one's kind of poking out from the side of the head. And then very classic 80s and 90s cartoons had the eyelid to it. Oh, hello, welcome. Hello, Crafty Geek Girls. Thank you so much for tuning in. So yeah, if you want to do the eyes, that's up to you. But regardless, there are these cute little eyelids. So I'm just kind of creating almost like a little triangle, or it looks like a little sailboat. And there are lashes in this on this character. So I'm gonna create some little lashes only on my right side. You can do whatever you want to either side. It doesn't matter to me, but I'm gonna add some nice lashes and not go too crazy. I want them to be pretty simple. If you feel like you want to add some over here, you can. Maybe I don't know. I have to decide. Sometimes I like the hidden side to not really have that. I like it to be a little bit more simple. Just me, just my opinion. Okie doke. And again, you guys can pause, go back as many times as you need to, so don't worry if I go too fast. Just try to hang in there as best you can. All right, so now for the little snout area, what we're gonna do is we're going to create a little bit of a curve. So just a little curve. This will get very frustrating, I know, because horses are really difficult to draw. And it took me a really long time with face painting to get down, like making them simple and how they look. But this unicorn tends to have a little bit of a pointier nose, a little thinner, like I was saying. So once you curve it there, you're gonna bring it back up. So see that little rectangle we made? You can even shorten it and make it a little bit, not a point, but it just rounds out and thins out right down there. This part we can erase right here. So I'm just gonna lightly erase that part. All right, and then from there, what we're gonna do is create a little nostril. So if you want both nostrils, you can start a second one there. I'm just kind of showing one because I feel like the nostrils are really spread out on the nose in the movie. So I'm just kind of creating one. And then the smile for it, like I was showing you guys with this piece, is we were always taught to cut that little rectangle right in the middle, and that's where like a smile would go. So same for this, the little cut is about right here, so I'm gonna create just a little smile. And what I always tell people is when you look at like an actual horse, oh, it's so confusing. Bodies, don't even get me started. But if you start to break down it into shapes, then you're gonna start to see like, oh yeah, horses are pretty easy. If I make this bigger, it'll look like another character. If I make this one smaller, it looks like another character. So with this, even if we did a really funny nose but a big nostril, you know, it'll look like a whole nother character. Give her little glasses. You guys get what I'm saying? They can all be different. Just have to mess around. So circle to some sort of rectangle, and then you can start to mess with it. Okay, now the hair is very flowy, very beautiful, curls, but the whole key is less is more. This is an 8x8, but you can definitely use a 6x6. It'll totally adjust itself as long as you're using the plus symbol. And then for this part, you can just start to throw hair in wherever you want. Just don't do a ton of it, because that's what starts to make things look really busy, unless you want it to be more of a portrait. And then I'm just making the little lines down my unicorn horn so I can find out where that's gonna go. And I do little kind of half shapes, like a wide C going upward. Yep, and questions are encouraged, so if you guys have questions at any time about it, let me know. But then the hair is just kind of pieced and flowing all these different ways, so I was just gonna create some curls. I mean, this is, again, somewhere you can have some fun. You can make the little jawline kind of comes up and down. And then the hair starts to flow, so you can make little locks coming off that neck that we did. You can curve it and go over, but I'm trying to make them almost like individual strands, because again, it's fan art. It's not meant to look just like the picture you're looking at. It's just supposed to be a likeness enough to where you can tell what it is. If it looks too much like a character, then you know you're kind of stomping too close to somebody else's property, so you don't want to be too similar. So mine will look a little bit different, but I'll use a lot of the same ideas, and that way it'll read that it's that unicorn. I moved my nostril over a little bit closer because I feel like the nostril was too close. It almost looks like it has a little bridge for the nose. So yeah, how you want to go about it is up to you. The unicorn does have this little star piece on the forehead. So the star I can't see the whole thing, but this is how the star looks. It goes down the middle of the mane, little, big, like that. And then the hair is kind of coming over it. So anyway, you want to make like the bottom of that kind of star. It's just a long point going down the center of the nose right here. 2 littler points, and then you can start it going upward, but I'm pretty sure the hair is going to cover it depending on how you did it. So the long point comes down, and we have a little sharp point not touching the eye. I went a little too low with that. I'll make my little like I said, the snouts, it can change a character depending on how you draw it. So, and this is not a character I draw very often, let me tell you. All right, inside the ears, there's like a little opening inside the ear. And anytime you guys are watching, you are free to go back and rewind. You don't have to watch it in time. You can start it at the beginning if you're jumping in a little late, for anyone that might be coming in late. Okay, so now that I have all that, you can even choose if you want hair to flow out on this side, which I do. So I'm just, again, making little like curly cues and closing the hair up. This hair I drew kind of coming down. And this will change a lot once I color it. All right, but I don't want to go too far because this is where she's gonna be, is on this side. I'm gonna close this up just a little. All right. So now that I have where I want her, give me a little sticky note. I wonder if I don't think my brightness is all the way up. Give me 1 second to see. Nope, it is. Have to be careful when I'm drawing her. So right now your unicorn is pretty much done. You don't need to do too much more unless you're behind a little bit, can't figure something out, take your time. I feel like the head is a little bit more wide at the top. There's like a big break in between the 2 eyes, really big. One eye is pretty far over, so I'm just moving my star. And then the hair can be your cheek, where you kind of curve it back around it. Okay. Still learning the nose and trying to see what I feel, but all in all, last unicorn. It'll figure itself out. Okay, now we go to the girl, and I'm doing my typical, as we call it, Disney concept girl, where it's mostly just the side of her face. And then we go from there. So I'm going to draw. Now, if you want your girl to be farther over and her hair not to, you want her hair too, I suggest starting a little farther right. About right there. But I don't mind them being really close together. So you choose if you want her to be closer or farther away. You guys can do that because they both have a ton of hair. So they're going to kind of merge together. So you can draw just a circle kind of closer to this mane, or you can draw it a little farther out and give a little gap. It's up to you. All right, once you've gotten that, let me just erase this so I don't get confused with all my line work. Okay, what I'm gonna wanna do is I'm gonna come right about the middle of that and bring that down just a little bit. So I'll zoom in, move over. So we've got the circle, we follow that circle down, we make a little ledge, and then we bring it down just a little bit. Almost looks like a lightning bolt. Okay, and then this part is the chin, it's gonna come back to our circle. So again, circle, about halfway down, we have a little nose pops out, we draw a line down, that's where the mouth's gonna go, and we have the chin coming back. Okay, and you can kind of fake and close all that up. So that should look like one piece now. Don't forget to sip. I need lots of water today. It is very warm in this place. Okay, now once you've done that, again, you can choose to go reference photos for eyes open. I'm gonna do my eyes closed. So I have her eyes almost the same as where the nose stops. I make a little scoop and a little scoop, just like we did for the unicorn. Only now it's for her. And she has very caring eyes, very soft eyes. So we want to draw her little eyebrows kind of going upward, but first let's make, again, some little eyelids, because again, very popular in like the 80s time, 70s, 80s. They used a lot of that. I'm just bringing this in again. And so I kind of draw her eyebrows up. I don't want to go, I'm only doing one eyebrow, but I don't want to go too high because she has a little star that matches the unicorn. So I'm just kind of making my little eye here. If you have to touch anything up, go for it. This is the time to do it because you have a pencil. As soon as you do marker, it's hard to do that. So I keep noticing like little things. Now she always has a very concerned face. It's really rare. She's usually like, ooh, 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 in every photo with her mouth slightly open. I'm still giving her a little smile. I don't want her to look sad or confused or anything like that. So I'm just keeping it very simple. Okay, and the mouth went right in between the two. Now, if you drew all the way down here, you're gonna have kind of a weird chin. So that's why we use our circle. Halfway down, we draw our nose, we come down, and then when we draw our chin line back, our jawline, our jawline, we go back towards that circle. All right, so from about here, we wanna draw a little line down, that's her neck. I make my necks really long. It's just kind of my style and the way I like to do it. Okay, and then I'm going to draw a little shoulder, and I'm going to make the neck the other way, and I'm going to dip it downward so you can kind of see we've gotten these two pieces right here. Now, if you guys want to draw the shoulders coming down, that's fine too. And what I do is that's where I draw her little top is going to be going across. She has kind of like a peasant dress. Let's see. Thank you for picking this movie. You're welcome. Thank you for suggesting it last month. I'm sorry I only get to pick one a month. But when I didn't hear from anyone, I went to last month's and took a look and was like, oh yeah, Last Unicorn. We can do that one. And again, if there's something I'm doing that you don't like, you guys are more than welcome to change it to fit what you want it to be from the movie. I'm just doing my style of how I would have done it if it was a commission. I don't want you guys to ever feel like, oh, Eva drew it this way, it has to be done that way. We've got a little star in the center of her forehead, so the best way to do it is draw kind of a long line. And then we're going to make an X. 1, 2. And that way, that's the shape of her little star. And then I just kind of thicken it up. If you want to add lashes, you can do that. I always like to keep things pretty simple with the lashes. Okay. And now we work on her hair. So with her hair, there's a few curls, not a lot. So I'm noticing them kind of around her face. So I'm going to create a little curl here. I'm going to do a curl kind of up on the forehead. And then the rest of the hair is just going to kind of fall away. She has a little bump kind of towards the back of the head. And then we just can add like her hair sweeping down. Maybe it covers some of her neck. That will hide some of the neck if you don't like your neck. I've got her hair kind of floating and blowing through, so it's kind of coming around. And individual strands was a big thing with these characters, where they would draw individual lines for the hair, which I don't normally do. So I'm trying to stay a little bit true to what they were. And now, again, you can start to kind of clean things up and keep adding hair the way you want to do it. She has some bangs that kind of go down. She has some bangs that come out forward. Whoop. So the hair is kind of merging into the unicorn's hair. That's why I was saying, like, it's going to be a lot of hair, heavy. She has these cute kind of little ruffles at the top of her dress. Just make sure you go past her arms and her shoulders where we were. Her neck, like I said, for me it's going to be kind of covered, so that's where I would normally do, like, my shading comes down. I use my hand for shading when I'm trying to figure things out. Like, I want shading there, I want some shading there, and I'll just kind of mush. That way we start to see it kind of have more of a 3D effect. Anything you want to get rid of and not accidentally draw, this is a good time to just clean all that up. And then on her dress, she doesn't have a big chest or anything, so I just do a little curve. And then she has her dress is kind of cut down the middle, and she has these little stitches that go across. Like I said, if you don't like the neck, you didn't do a good job, you can always make hair strands kind of cover it and come out. Okie doke. Now, maybe take a step back, look at it. See, I'm starting to feel the unicorn starting to look a little bit more like the unicorn in the movie. Of course, once I start painting it, people will be like, oh, it's that unicorn. If I was to paint it pink, then you'd be like, that's not the unicorn. So yeah, I felt like this unicorn looked more like a Loch Ness, like a cute Loch Ness monster with this like long, narrow, skinny neck. So there's that. Okay, now behind it, I was just gonna do a simple kind of rainbow wash behind it, and I was just gonna do gouache, but very softly. So I'm creating a little bit of a circle to go around them, not hard at all, just very soft. I'm gonna remove my background now. So see how I started and then see how it's different. This is why I never want you guys to start sketching based off of what I show you guys in the Patreon rewards. Which is a reminder, guys, the Patreon blog is open to everybody to see, so I keep it very vague. But with the new, if you've moved over to the new Sip and Paint in August, you're going to see that everything's in the newsletter. And if you haven't signed up for the newsletter, I would suggest doing it because you're going to get a lot of information there. Discount codes. I even put in there when to expect the Sip and Paint, that I'd be emailing you to get ideas. So it's a good way to not miss out on anything. But yeah, I'll be using the Patreon blog as like a generic blog as opposed to when I made it all exclusive to people on certain reward tiers. Okay, so now it's time to ink. So I'm using one of my zebra pens. Some of you have been on here before and you already know this stuff, but just in case there's anyone new, these are my zebra pens and I get them from Daiso. Apparently they sell them now at Joann's Fabrics, which is amazing. And now I'm just gonna go around and trace everything I want to keep. So if you feel like following along, great. If you're behind, you're still sketching, that's fine. Just do it when you're ready. I'm gonna do the face with the jawline. I'm gonna do my eyelashes. Now I try not to stay in one spot too long or else my ink will stay kind of damp. Whether or not it's a mushy kind of ink or not, it still stays damp the longer you go over things. So I'm not going to color that lash in. I'm just going to kind of draw the outline of the lash. Don't lash out. Okay, now I've got a nostril. I've got a cute little smile. Hair is going to be the first thing I want to do because everything else is kind of hidden behind it. The horn will be hidden behind the hair, the ears, the neck. So I want to do those lines first, and then I can do the shape of my star as well. So just in case you forgot about the star does need to go on underneath the hair. So I need one line kind of starting coming out from the ear because we want to cover the horn. Kind of not covered all the way, but show that it kind of overlaps it. And I'm going to do a couple curls here and there. So I'm avoiding the horn and I'm just creating hairlines. And we've got my hair that's gonna sweep this way and come back to the ear. All right, so go really slow, avoid the horn until you've got all your bangs there, and then you can draw the horn in. If you're gonna paint like with acrylic or gouache, keeping it really opaque and not adding a lot of water will help you a lot with hiding things if you messed up with the marker. So I do suggest using a good gouache or acrylic. Okay, now I'm gonna do the ear. That's the next thing. And the inside of the ear and the other ear. This ear is a little farther away and I have it facing out, so I'm not going to draw the inside of that ear. I'm just drawing the one on the right side. Now that I have everything placed where I want it, I want to finish my little eyelids. And I want to work on that star and go nice and slow. So remember, it's a long point, a short one, and then right off of that, another short one. And then technically it goes back up, but we can't see all of that. Okay, now I can work on all the hair that floats around it. So you'll just kind of place hair, whoop, all different lines, try to focus on one, finish it, and then start your next one, and finish it. You do not have to do hair just like me, as long as you have some nice curls and it's obvious where the curl is floating. I'm going to change pens. Whoop. Okay, now I'm going to try this neck here because there's not much more touching that one. I'm going to keep that hair flowing. Ooh. Lots of curly, some big hair, some skinny little pieces of hair, all different shapes and sizes. Okay, and I'm going to kind of stop as I get to her hair so I can separate the two. Do one more and stop where her hair is. Now I'm going to have a couple pieces out here. I'm going to cut one down the middle, kind of change it up by shortening, like let them meet up. Don't just go all the way perfectly down the middle. Try to start some branching off in different places. Make some really skinny and some not so skinny strands. Okay, so my unicorn is done. Again, if I went too fast, you can certainly go back, rewind, pause, whatever you need to do. Moving on with her, I'm going to start with her, the shape of her face. That's like when kids used to come up to me and go, I want my paint faced. And I'm like, your face painted? It'd always be opposite. You can soften things a bit more now once you have it settled. Her nose doesn't have to be as pointy. Her chin can be a little bit rounder, a little softer. Okay, I'm going to start the front of her neck, but remember the back of her neck I've covered with hair. I'm going to get her little lips. She's very simple, soft lips there. We're going to do her eyelashes. Again, if you want to add more to the eyelash, you can. She has her eyelids, if you feel like drawing those, and her kind of soft, delicate eyebrow that kind of always has that worried look. So I made a little eyebrow for her. Okay, I'm going to do the star before I work on her hair. So again, it's like a long line, a little X, and then another long line. I made mine fairly big just so you can see it, but in the movie I think it's much smaller than that. Exaggerating and all that, that's part of fan art, so don't be afraid to change things up. Alright, I've got a couple of her bangs here that are just more simple, and then I have a nice big curled bang. Ooh. Maybe I split that one a little bit weird in half. This hair is going to swoop down and kind of block some of her neck. Oh, and I have a piece right there, so I want to find where that one's coming from. Try to start from the top and take a look at where it would be connected. So if this one was coming up, whoop, comes out from up there, the back of her head. They're kind of crisscrossing over with hair. There we go. And I just kind of start to let it die out. She does have very long hair, so you can keep that length going on the other side if you want. Some more curls here and there. Mess with the line work, make some pieces really skinny. We've got this one kind of floating out by itself. And now I'm going to do her little shoulder. So her really long neck, stylized the way I like to do it. Her shoulder. We have the little frills, however you want to do them. I kind of make little bouncy moves when I create those. Her chest, can bring it in, and she has a little bit of a peasant sleeve, so it puffs out a little bit. Same on this side, just gonna puff it up a little bit. Alright, and then I've got her little line with the stitches going across. Okay, and we can just finish up with hair however you want to do it, and then we'll get to painting. So go ahead and take your time. If her hair needs to be more busy, cutting it up with little lines through it is the best way to go. If you want her hair even longer, you can add some more strands down here. Maybe your hair has more over there. So I'm going to be doing rainbow and a little bit of a star background. Very 80s kid. Rainbows and stars. And then of course you better believe glitter and gold will be on this. So while you guys are finishing that up, I'm going to go clean out my dirty paint water and get myself a paper towel. Okay, so the next part, you guys want to clean up your artwork with an eraser. So I'm just going to take my eraser. I just went and got new paint water, and I also got a paper towel. If you don't want to erase your circle, that's okay. I kind of like the circle as a quick visual, like, okay, do I like where I'm going to do the background? Yes, and then I kind of erase it. If you feel like you need that circle to stay there, then by all means, keep it. I'm just going to rotate my canvas and keep cleaning it off. This is a vanishing eraser from Jerry's Artorama. I really, really, really like this eraser. It's my favorite eraser to use when I'm working. Pink erasers work just fine. I just feel like you can't grasp them and hold them the same way. Okay, so now that I've got this complete, I'll clean it up even more when I get done painting. If you're like me and you have a place where all the little shavings go, I just kind of dust off with a brush, because these little pieces will get in my painting, and it happens all the time. And when I'm really lazy and I don't clean all the shavings off, then I end up with a messy painting. So I want to make sure I clean. Okie doke. So now that I have that cleaned off, I'm going to put my painting back. And this is the fun part. This is where you're going to start to choose what your background's going to look like. Is it going to be a solid color? Is it going to be the whole background? Is it going to be focused around them? Is it going to be a shape? I like circles. Keeps things nice and even, clean. I like that. You love the 80s. Yes. 80s sauce. Okay. Alright, so like I said, I'm going to do my background a little bit more of a faded, kind of watered down background, so that the rest of my painting really shows the characters. I want it to be softer in the back and brighter in the front of it. So let me go pick out some cut-offs. Okay. And my colors are like in a big bin. I also have been really bad about putting my lids on, so I will be getting some of the paint out with scissors while I work. I've got this nice pink. I'm just going to do a very simple background. Yellow, green, teal. I use it all the time, so I know it's out already. Pink, yellow, green, teal, and a soft purple, like a lavender. And a soft lavender color. So this is going to be my background palette, and then I'll work on the characters after, so we'll pick out colors in different sections here. Trying to get much cleaner about how I paint so I don't have all my paints on the table. Has it worked yet, Eva? No, not yet. You're crazy. But I definitely try. Trying is my favorite. Okay, so when I say I'm gonna water things down, one, I want to move my actual drinking water out of the way because I will drink it. Okie dokie. And then I have my paint water. It looks dirty, it's just because that I don't clean once I use like water for a mug, or a mug for water, then it pretty much is ruined forever because I won't clean it again. Okay, I'm gonna use my little kind of like a little pouncer brush, a little mop brush. I just get a little bit of water on it, and as you can see, it's crusted over because some of my caps, they dry while I'm painting, like the paint gets dry in them and it's hard to clean them out. So very carefully I take small scissors with a nice point, just typical cutting scissors, you can get these at the Dollar Tree store, and I just kind of put the corner in and I twist, and it works its way up, and then voila. What you do with that extra paint on the side, I suggest putting it in like a paper towel because it will be damp even though you think it's not. I always work by just squeezing the paint up and working with it that way. Some people like it the other way, like to actually put it out on a palette. That is just not my jam unless I'm mixing colors or it's getting too much and I need to like really focus. So I'm watering my paintbrush down, and this is how you turn gouache into watercolor. So I'm just creating a little circle. My outside color would be the equivalent of what a red is. So I'm doing all pastels, and I'm doing pink first, which would be like a red on the outside of very vibrant rainbow. And I like the dry brush effect, so I even go, as it starts to run out, I start to just drag the brush and let it get kind of cool looking, I don't know, on the outside. Now it is smart when you're doing rainbows to kind of change your brushes out like every other color, but in this case I'm not going to. I really like this mop brush for this effect, so I want to go as quickly as I can. That's why having two brushes would be awesome, but if you don't have it, it's okay. This one's decent enough. I want to make sure there's water. I'm just tapping off the extra onto my my, what do you call it? Paper towel. Words are really tough lately. I think I'm losing my memory. So as it's watery and you start to go over that other color, that's where your secondary color is going to come in. So you have your primary color is like red, which it's not red, it's pink, but same idea. And yellow make orange. So it's doing it naturally as I just fade it over, watered down. If I don't water this down, it stays really opaque. So now I clean that color off of my brush. I'm doing just a little. My brush is mostly water. I don't want it running down, but I want enough water that does its job. This is kind of a green. And then I go to my teal. So I'm okay that the green and the teal are a little close. I don't need a ton of water to change it up. They're gonna merge nicely. Yes, I'm going over their hair and stuff, but it's so light, it really doesn't matter. It's gonna get painted over anyway. And you'll start to see that the green is really staying and less blue. And then I'm gonna go to purple. Purple, last one. And see how quick that background can be done without sitting there for hours. You just gotta know your paints, and you gotta know that if this paint is not watered down, it's gonna go right over the top of where maybe I did it over their hair and stuff. So I'm not worried about that. If you feel like those colors weren't enough for you and you need a blue in there, I'm gonna take a really small brush and I'm gonna take a really light pastel blue, and I'm just gonna pass it over with some water right between the green and the purple. So just a tiny bit to bring some blue in. I don't want it to mess anything up. I really like the gradient I got. And if it's starting to look muddy, it's probably because you have too much water or you didn't get enough pastel. Maybe you have a really dark purple. It's not going to read the same way. If you're mixing colors to get this kind of coloring, this is why investing in actual paints that are that color is going to help you out. Really awesome. because yeah, I've done things where I try to skip it and I try to mix the colors, and then it turns out like the purple is just hideous. The rest looks great, and then there's really no way to fix it. So you have to really think about these things as you're building your characters. So far, there it is with this nice, beautiful, soft background. I'm pulling up a reference photo right now of the unicorn so I can start on the look of it and the colors. Now, the last unicorn has a lot of different coloring, depending on what picture you're looking at. Some of them are very white. If you look at the cover of the last unicorn with the rainbow and a little like butterfly floating next to it, that to me is more true the colors. Kind of a blue for the hair, a soft blue for the hair, and white and grays for the body. It doesn't mean you have to stick to those colors, but if you want it to read as those characters, you should be close to them. So here's some colors I'm going to suggest and use that are in my kit. I have Misty Blue Gouache. Misty Blue is like a gray, but it's more on the blue tones. Really nice. Then I have my Sky Blue, which I was just using for my rainbow. So I'm going to bring that one out for hair. And then we've got Mostly White, which I'm using acrylic white. Just a basic acrylic you would buy at a craft store. Anytime I use white, it's that, but if I run out, I do have white gouache, which is really nice, but this covers really fast and dries really quickly. And then I'm gonna use, obviously you guys know, I love doing cheeks. Even if the character doesn't call for it, I usually create them. Jerry's have something like a starter kit. Yes, they sure do. My starter kit, I kind of broke up and moved the pieces into my other paints, so I would bring it out and be like, here's what the kit looks like. They have a primary and secondary color kit with black, white, and brown included. You can certainly go gouache, G-O-U-A-C-H-E, gouache, just like this. G-O-U-A-C-H-E, gouache. And they don't have to be expensive and fancy to work. And then Michael's Arts and Crafts has the Artist Loft brand. And those are like $9 for your most basic colors. So you're not going to find things like this or teal or things like that. You'll find like regular blue, and then you mix it with white, and then you'll get your soft powder blue. So it's a lot of mixing with the starter kit. When you're ready and you feel like you want to invest, these can be between $6 and $12 depending on the color. Most of them are $6 or $7 through Art Supply Warehouse. So if I use a color and you're like, wow, that looks so much better than just gray, it's like got a bluish soft tone, but it still has a shadow, this is your jam. So that's why I try to always introduce you guys to the expensive product. But even though I'm saying expensive, it's like $6. So buying one new color a week or every 2 weeks will be $6 out of your pocket. You'll get a new color, and that thing, this has lasted me 6 months, and it's not even used a lot because I only use it for shadows. So, but yes, Jerry's Art Aroma has Turner acrylic gouache, and they're just fine. They work just the same. I just find that this company makes a really creamy, it's like the difference is just the creaminess of it for Holbein acrylic gouache. Turner is great, but it's a little bit more on the watercolor side. So I'm really good at jumping between the two, but then I'll get people that are like, how'd you get it so this way? And I'm like, it's brands. They make them slightly different. So keep that in mind. I'm going to do all my shadows right now. All my shadows are going to be a misty blue. You can use gray, you can use a soft blue and a white, kind of mix them together, and I'm going to put this only where the shadows are. It's okay if it's really dark because I'm going to use my acrylic white to go over it. So see how it just covered where I painted kind of that tie-dye rainbow in the back? I'm going to go under the hairs that are individually floating, so I'm going to create a little shadow here, here, anywhere that it seems like a hair is floating. You would think that it puts a little shadow. Just think about it, you know, like would a shadow go on top of the hair? No, that's where the light's hitting it, so it goes under the hair. Anywhere that there's regular fur, I guess, for the horse, I just kind of follow and look at my lines again underneath the hair. The whole unicorn is not this color. This is just for shadows. So it's going to get darker the farther away the body goes, so I follow that. I'm doing the chest now. And as it moves back, it's going to catch light, and then the hair hits again and creates another shadow. So you're casting shadows all over. So yeah, like a sky blue, a white, and maybe a little hint of gray. That should create kind of a bluish tone. I kind of cleaned it up there. So anywhere you think a shadow would be, maybe a shadow's on this side of the face because it's starting to turn away and we can't see it as well. Maybe the nostril has a little bit of a shadow. Maybe under the eyes is gonna have a bit of a shadow. The star is part of the fur, so I don't think it'd have that much of a shadow, but just to make it pop, I'm giving it a little shadow behind it. I'm gonna fill in these little holes like that. If it's a really big gap like this, the light would eventually hit it, so I don't wanna make that too dark. But you guys see, it still creates a good shadow, even though it's a really light color. When it dries, gouache always dries a bit lighter normally, but with some colors it seems like they go opposite. Like they go a little bit darker. Okay, the rest is her hair and the unicorn's hair. So I'm gonna go ahead and let that dry. Now we've got the unicorn horn, which is more this color actually straight out of the bottle. So I can go right to it and cover the horn. If you feel like you don't have that kind of color, you might have to kind of mess around with colors to see what you have. Maybe you have a silver and you want to make it glow with like a nice silver. That's fine too. But I find this is like a bluish gray. So I'm just going really slowly to make it, because if I mess up here, there's really nowhere I'm gonna paint. So I want to make sure I take my time. All right, now the reason we do all these low lights first and not a highlight and then add it is we can go right over it and you'll see a little bit of that color will pop through. Just a little bit of it. It'll make it much more soft and subtle. Again, if I'm going too fast, please pause and catch up when you can. Inside the ear, I'm going to use this as well. You can use a purple. I noticed some pictures had like a nice soft like lavender in there, so I'm going to go back to my lavender just so that my ears are a little bit different than all the shadows. And I'm just going to add a little bit of this lavender to it. When I say a little, I mean it. Okay, so all that's drying right now, right? So what I want to do next is I want to focus on the hair, which is like a sky blue color. If you don't agree with that, you want to do it all white, you can. There's just so many photos of the unicorn. I feel like the truer one has more of a sky blue, so that's what I'm going to use. So now I'm just going to color all my hair. It's going to be somewhat simple painting today. It's what you choose to do to jazz it up. This is where I'm going to push you guys to try to like make up your own backgrounds. If you do it the same as me, that's fine, but if it pushes you to create something really unique. These cartoons were very simple back then. I believe some of it was budget. They just didn't have budgets to make huge animated films like Disney, so it was always very simple with anime. Don't quote me on that, but I do believe that's why they were always coming out with a lot, and the line work was always very simple. Okay, I'm just going very slowly. I'm using a round brush. I forgot to tell you guys, for most of this I've been using my round brush. A round brush is like your typical brush that you get in a lot of kits. Okay, so again, just filling in the hair wherever I see it for just the unicorn. Anytime there's a point, I try to go with the point first really softly, and then when I pull back, it can get thicker. And because I did blue in the background as well with this, you know, it'll, in some spots, will stand out until I start painting the outline of the hair. So don't worry if it starts to blend together with the rainbow in the background. It will get separated when we do lines at the end. Okay, so now all this hair on this side are done, is done, are done. Okay. If you want to go darker blue, you can. You want to go even lighter blue. I'll come back with another pass on that. And now I'm going to do the hair on the other side. Now there's also some photos where you'll see the unicorn without the star, and again, I don't remember the movie very well. Maybe Crafty Geek Girls can remind me. Does the unicorn get the star over time on the center of the forehead, or is it just some photos have it with and some have it without. I'm assuming it's like the star gets on the forehead at some point. So yeah, if you're like, no, I don't want to do the star in the middle of the forehead, I want it to just be what it is, then that's fine. Okay, so again, going from the point and then bringing it up and flattening my brush. Don't forget to take a sip, especially if it's hot at your house, of your water, your drink, whatever it is you have. And I want to make sure I don't color her hair too much. She has different hair colors. She has like a really soft blonde. So it's okay if I cover my line work because I can still see it through the paint. And even if I don't see it through the paint, I know pretty much how to mess with it and put it back where it was, even if it's not exact. So all those little lines going through the hair I'll figure out. Right, maybe I add a little bit of this blue to the horn. You don't have to, but sometimes I just pick and choose things to do. Let's see. It just sometimes they forget to draw it. There you go. So I personally like it. I love the little stars in the center of the forehead on like almost like Sailor Moon with their little moons right in the middle of the forehead. I just think it's really cute, so I prefer to draw it. You do not have to. Alright, and I'm going to make one of these strands here, even though I made it for her hair. I'm going to make one of these the unicorns, and then the rest. Whoop, there goes my cat. Okay, so at this point, again, we bounce around everywhere, and thank you again for answering that. I appreciate that. We're bouncing around to different parts, and then we can come back to where we started and we'll be ready to go on the new stuff. See, there's even people that have drawn it like with pink ears and all that. So whatever you guys want to do, it doesn't matter to me. I'm going based off of the movie stills because I want to get it more close to the true color it was. Why my computer won't let me click on something. All right, so now I'm going to do all the white. So this is where I take my acrylic white and I'm going to go back over and you're going to see what I'm talking about. This dark color is going to really be a soft shadow. You guys are so sweet. Okay. So again, a lot of this is going to be my round brush. It's just a nice brush that gets into small areas. Very typical. You can get these as a 4 or a 6 in size, and it's just really a good brush to have in your kit. I'm going to thin out with some water this acrylic paint, just a little bit of water. But you guys can see what I'm talking about. It's still there, but it softens that, but I can still see my line work. Now, if I went straight out of the jar with no water on my brush, then it would cover pretty much everything, and we don't want that. So I'm treating it like a watercolor. You can water down your acrylic paint. So you can even watercolor with acrylic paints. Right? Just a lot of water in comparison to acrylic. And I go even over the shadow areas that I have under the hair, because again, it was a little too much before. So now it's just softening all of it. Regular acrylic, you can go to Michael's Arts and Crafts, Walmart, you can order online. Any acrylic paint I find does the same trick. Doesn't have to be super fancy. Now, if you didn't wait too long, or you're using a different type of paint and you start to do this part and you're like, oh my gosh, it's making it like it's pulling the gray into everything, that means it's just not dry yet. So you want to wait for it to dry a little more. Maybe use less water on your brush when you're doing the acrylic white. But as you can see, it's still keeping that darker tone in those areas. It's not just a boring white unicorn. It's got some nice details in it, and the highlights and lowlights. If you start to cover something and you can't see it anymore, you can always rewind and go back to the beginning of this video and kind of see where we did line work, and then redraw it or put it in there with your brush. This still looks a little too obvious right there for me, so I'm going to use some more acrylic. And you guys stop whenever you think, okay, this is good. You can see the shadows, but it's not too much. So even if you went in there with gray, you can still cover it up a bit with acrylic white. just water down your acrylic white a little bit. That way it keeps it transparency. And I do the same thing when I'm doing the glasses on characters with acrylic. If I put glasses on and I need the glass part of the glasses, I'll water down white and make that the lens. And that way it's still there until I paint it on it, but it's not too much. Alright, and now I'm just taking my acrylic white and adding it a little thicker in places I can, where I don't want it to be all like looking gray. I want to kind of fade out. So again, this is about a number 4, number 6 brush, round brush, and I'm just kind of going back and smoothing over. I think I'm pretty happy with that. I still want all of that. And since I have white, I want to add with a thin brush a little bit of a white highlight to the horn. In the movie you don't really have this, but whenever I do unicorns I try to add a little highlight. Oh, my brush has got messed up. Paint didn't come off of it. Okay, so just a little line brush if you have one. Yeah, that brush is done. Boy, sometimes I think all the paint's off and it's not, and then my brush gets all crusty and gross. Alright. So now I'm just taking my brush and I'm making a very, very light highlight. And then I'm going to work on the ears. Remember, anywhere we did with marker will pretty much be a different color of line work. I'm not going to use black for the line work. I'm going to use something similar to what we've been using, like grays or blues, depending on what part of the character I'm working on. Okay. And see, as it's drying, I can see a really bright gray part, so I'm just slowly covering it up with acrylic once it starts drying. Softening all those parts. And if you covered your hair anywhere, you can go back and paint it after we're done. I have little pouncer brushes, all different sizes. These are called Deerfoot brushes. So they make this really nice blush when I want to add a little bit of blush somewhere. So I'm taking my coral and I'm mixing it with some white. Let me grab a little piece of scratch paper. This is like when I said that I merge things. So I would take the pink, kind of blot it till it gets a little thin, clean off my brush, wipe it off on my paper towel so I get, most of it gone, and then I merge the two, white and the coral, to make this nice soft color. And then I'm going to go right under the eye to create that cheek. And the pouncer brush really just does all the work for me. Now the horn is, or the star that goes under the horn is kind of a similar tone. It's a little bit more in the pinkish range. So I'm going to keep kind of that coral color to keep it in the color scheme I'm going for. Again, it's fan art. You can change colors. It doesn't have to be exact to what the character is in the movie. I'm taking some of that hot pink I did around the edges. I'm taking some of my coral because it makes it almost like a bubblegummy color when I mix the two. Okay, the cheek I softened, so this will be a whole new color. And I create my little star now. And I'm just using a thin brush, something really easy to do line work. Not too much water or you'll lose control of your line work that you're working on. Again, if this is going too fast, all you do is rewind. That way I can go quick and get back to work. And you guys can watch this over and over and over again. Sorry to have to listen to my voice. Alright, and with a little bit of this brighter color, I'm going to tie that into the cheek a little and blend it. Best blending tool, your hands. That's how I feel. Unless you have really dirty hands covered in paint, then you'll mess up. Okay, so now that I have that, I'm deciding, okay, I'm looking at it now, the way the coral's drying on the cheek, I think I want to go a little bit pinker with the cheek than coral. So now this is where you can make any changes you guys want. I'm gonna add a little bit more pink status in there. Yes, more 80s. Vibrant. And then I take my little tiny brush, I get a dab of acrylic, and I make a little highlight on the cheek. My acrylic is almost down, so I have to go really low for it. And remember, you have lashes and stuff too that we want to account for, so I'm trying to go a little bit less than where those would be poking out. And whatever's left on my brush, I always try to find a home for it so it doesn't go to waste. I'm going to soften this up a little bit. Alright. Now I know the horn is coming out of the center of this, so technically I've drawn mine a bit low, but that's okay. I'll use the magic of hair covering things so people don't really focus on it. That's the best part about painting. You can just keep adding things and changing it up. All right, now I'm gonna draw her. So I pull up a little photo of her. Bum, 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 ba-dam. Lady Amalthea. She is a very light skin tone. So I have a few. I have a beige with like a yellowish tone. This one is called beige. And then I want to grab a few other tones. Shadows, I'll probably use my One Brilliant. Pale Peach is another color I have to kind of go with that beige to give it a little warmth but soften her so she looks a little more porcelain. And then we have Flesh color, which is just a really nice basic great color for most of basic white skin tones, if you will. The One Brilliant's great if you want to start adding more of a tan look to them, but it's also great if you soften it a bit, it'll add a little bit of a shadow. So I'm going to go with my Flesh color first for her. And again, back to my regular old round brush. Okay, back to my round brush. I'm going to zoom in a bit on her. And here's where I'm just going to basically slap it down on anything skin tone. So like I said, this is already a great one for starting off any lighter skin tones, and then as you need to go more, you can. If you have somebody with like a brownish skin tone, you can use Flesh color and add a dark purple to it, just like a hint of it, and it'll start to turn more of a brown. You would be shocked. You would think, oh, isn't it just turned like a light purple? But it doesn't. So that's a really cool trick and skill that my friend taught me, was it's not just brown and white. You want to do a light purple, or I'm sorry, a nice deep purple, and just mix it with a little bit of a beige, and you should get a nice brown tone. So again, I'm just covering the whole thing, and then I'll add all my shadows and stuff as I go. Right now I just want the basic colors. So I'm just covering everything because I can see it with, I can see through it as it's drying. So I'm not too worried, especially since it's a really light skin tone. Alright, her other shoulder, her hair, skip her hair. This is her neck and her chest. And the rest is like her purple dress down below, so I'm going to leave that. Now we're going to talk about shadows on her. Shadows and then highlights. So shadows, I'm pulling my One Brilliant, which is like a step farther with the Flesh color. I'm watching and asking now, and then I'm drawing and painting later. Well, that's the best way to go about it. That way you can absorb. I'm an absorber. I can watch something and then later go back and do it. Alright, so just like the unicorn with the blues and the grays, I'm going to add shadow where I think it should hit. So if the light's shining this way, the hair would be bouncing off of that. Would be casting a shadow right under her chin, would be casting a shadow. Actually, it's funny, I've been looking at photos of her neck, and if you guys notice or go to it, it's like two different colors. It's really weird. I don't know how to describe it, but it almost looks like she has something growing on her neck. I don't know if it's in every picture. I feel like it is. Yeah, the way they do their shadow is a very solid color. Some of them look good, but there's one in particular where it looks like she has a big thing hanging on her neck. when she's like sitting at her throne or something. Interesting. Okay, there's gonna be shadow down here, shoulders where the hair's kind of brushing over, and the body's getting farther away from the light. We want to have some shadows there, some shadows under this little curl, and some up there. Now we're going to go to even lighter colors. This is where the beige and pale peach come in. I'm going to go with beige first because even looking at the photos, she has a lot of yellow tones to her skin as opposed to pinks. So I'm just taking a little bit of beige, and I'm brushing a little bit of this tone over it and washing it out. So it's just softening that first color I put on and softening the shadows I just put. I think I'm good to get away without using this pale peach, so I'm gonna skip on that. And since I have this nice beige, if you want to mix like a yellowish white, you can. It's more white than it is yellow. This beige is pretty close to her hair color in all the stills that I'm seeing. So I'm going to go ahead and do a wash of this, and then I'm going to add a little bit of yellow tones to it. So this is just a beige right out of the bottle that I have. She also reminds me of Meg from My Little Pony dolls. Megan, or yeah, her name is Megan. I just called her Meg. She was like an added girl to the My Little Ponies that you could get for your set when you were a kid. So this has more of like a tan tone to the beige as opposed to a yellow. So that's why I want to mix a little bit of a light yellow in with white to kind of pick up the tone of her hair color. We'll start working on her clothing and then go back to the face to add like blush and everything. So the more you move around, the less upset you'll get. Things will dry and then you can go back to them and work on them more later. I used to find that I'd sit in one spot for way too long. My paper would start to peel. So it's always a good idea not to sit in one spot too long. Not just the actual doing that, but mentally you'll get very frustrated and be like, ugh, like why is this not working? Why is this not working? And that's not good. You don't want to paint when you're getting cranky or angry or frustrated. So it's best to do the best you can and then move on and make something else, work on another piece of it, and then come back to it later. And you'll be shocked what going to bed and waking up and working on it the next day will do. I do that one a lot. So the hair right now is gonna dry, and again, I'm gonna go to my kind of my purples, my pastels, and I'm gonna create her little top. So I'm using this purple, which is pale lilac, and I also have lilac, and with the Turner Acrylic Wash, which is through Jerry's Artorama, this is how theirs look. This is pastel lavender, and just between lilac and lavender, it's like different colors completely. So I start with two of my darkest ones. Okay, I'm using a round brush. So this one has more blue tones in it. And again, just so many people sit here and worry and worry and worry, and me, I kind of just slap down the color and then add detail as I go. I don't really sit and worry too much about just the base colors going down. Yes, you need to be good about practicing and persistent. Like, I know where my brush is going, I know how it works just from practice, but at the same time I know to go slow it at some points to get things right. So this is adding that lilac as like a shadow underneath it. So it's creating more, and I just kind of, again, flop it down. I don't really have a plan with it. I think the shadows kind of show as I go. I'm making a centerpiece where that thread comes down and creates the little lines going across. I want to make sure my bottom of it where it fades is kind of closing up. And then we have her little frills, and that's the lightest of the purple. So now I'm just taking that really light purple and I'm just adding the little, kind of little bounces just to make sure it looks like it's a little frilly. And if you need to wait for it to dry or you need to use other colors, you know, do that. Wait for it to dry. It can look like anything you want. It doesn't have to match the movie completely. So I feel like it has a little bit even lighter purple. And in this case, I'm going to use pale peach because the purple's already down, so it's going to pull it in. This is where I'm just going to take a little bit of this and kind of start to go. And it keeps the purple, but it kind of washes in a little bit of a soft pink color to it. And then the two of them make that nice little mix. Looks like she has little ruffles at the top. Okay, now that that's drying, I'm going to work on her cheek because as you can see, her cheek will be blocked by the hair, and we want to get the cheek down first so we can paint the hair over it when I do my second run through here. So I'm using a little pouncer brush, just like I showed you, the deer foot. I have all different sizes, so I can do all different places on the painting. Sometimes I have a big character where I can use my big pouncer, and then I have ones where they're a little bit smaller. So again, taking my colors, I'm taking my little mixture guy, and this time I'm going to take that pale peach and mix it in instead of white. That way it all sticks in the same pink color scheme. Okay, and I want to get it pretty light. Alright, and now I'm just going to pounce a little cheek. She's very soft and very porcelain, so I want to keep things really soft with her. And I add a little bit to the nose just to add some warmth. Okay, so I did a little bit of a pouncer cheek. I bring a little to the nose, not crazy, just a little bit, and then I just kind of did a little line to show how they're a little connected with the bridge of her nose and her cheek line. Okay, I think she needs to dry a little bit. We need to bounce back to this place over here so we can finish up what's going on. I'm going to take my blue and fix where I messed up the hair and the star, because again, the star, technically the hair comes out a little bit lower than it is. The horn comes out there. So we're going to use hair to kind of alter it a bit. I don't know what I did with pastel blue. There it is. There it is. Okay, so this is where I get a little creative. And I'm like, oh, it needs a little bit more hair. Which it does, because there is a lot of hair on this unicorn. Okay, and this is where you go back and you fix anything you need, because now it's dry. Right. This one doesn't really make sense, so I want to make sure I get like another curl in there. If you don't naturally like do these little curls, it will feel very forced and things won't make sense. Like that wave doesn't really make sense. These were things people used to tell me back in the day, and I was like, what do you mean it doesn't make sense? It's the hair. And they'd be like, well, it's the way you did it. Like there's no curl, there's no understanding of which way is the direction of the hair going. So anytime I feel that way, I throw a few pieces in and hope it works. You know, I alter a few things. If it doesn't read, it doesn't read. Alright, so that's me getting my hair back. Now you can't really tell where the horn comes out. The horn's there, it is what it is. I'm going to do some more for the little star. I'll add glitter and stuff to this to take away from all that pink color. Alright, now I'm going to do the eyelids, the nostril, the mouth. And again, I'm not going to use anything super harsh. I'm still going to use my Misty Blue, because remember I painted over it and made it more subtle, and now I can just paint regular over it. So I add the little kind of gray for the nose, bring the mouth in. I'm still gonna need a darker color regardless of how I do this. I need my eyelid, just line work. Okay, now maybe you want to shadow it with pulling the paint down a little bit, thin out that color, and that way your shadow on the eyelid makes the eyelid stand out against the white. Hopefully this is all making sense. Never want to confuse you guys. Now I'm gonna grab gray, like actual gray, because gray in this is gonna be like doing black line work. I just have one gray in my kit. You can have 90 different grays or 50 shades of gray. But honestly, I find just this one is like subtle enough and nice. So now I'm gonna create that little line work for the nose and the little mouth. And I'm just using this nice soft brush. I don't want it to look super line worky, even though that's what it is. I want to keep it still subtle, so I use my hand to kind of pick up some of that paint so it's a little bit softer. Alright, I'm going to add my black lashes. And per usual, I left the lid off of this one, so I'm going to come in with my scissors and scoop off the top layer. Paint boogers is that I call them. And then just get the color I need. Pretty much anytime I use black, pretty much, doesn't mean always, I put it down because this one gets all globby and it's good to thin out the color. So not too much water, just enough that when you pull, it makes these really nice, you know, smooth lines. If it's too much water, it'll start to run. So now I'm going to create my eyelashes. And they're very long, like a big long hammock. This one's shorter because it's on the other side of the face, so you don't see the whole thing. And remember, I like to go from the point and then pull back and then end on another point. I'm going to add some big, long, beautiful lashes. Maybe on this side it's the way the dimension is. It's just poking out of the face, but it's not. All of these are tucked back there so we can't see them. That's how I pretty much look at turned faces and try to get that similar. Right? If you feel like some of your shadows are, you know, once the paint dried, they're kind of gone, you can even go back and touch up a few spots. So this side I think is pretty good. I think I lost a little bit of shadow on this side. I'm just coming back and creating a little bit more shadow. And with that background, you know, the white really does stick out. This happens from time to time where a piece of water comes off my brush. See, you hear all those lids? They always fall on the ground. I can't ever keep them organized, and I'm too lazy to put on my lid every single time I need a color, because you know how many times I pull the same color out? I'm like, ugh, put the lid on that one. Gotta take the lid off. First world problems. Alright. Now I'm going to work on the hair, and I'm going to use a nice blue. It's going to be a little bit dark, but then I'm going to thin it out so it doesn't look as dark. Kind of a little trick. This one is turquoise blue. I love this one. It's a fun color to use for a lot of things. Just scrape this out. The great part about gouache is even if it makes a little lid at the top with the paint, you can literally just pull it up and it's all wet paint right under it. So you'll never throw your gouache away unless you're down to the bottom of it and you're like, it's really hard to work with. So I'm going to water down some of this blue. I still want like a good chunk of paint so I can keep myself going, but I'm going to take water and then thin that out. And with my little brush, I'm just going to start to add those line work pieces. Okay, so remembering where your lines are is really hard, I know. But you can even make it up as you go, you can kind of guess. Thick and thin lines. Press down for a thick line, and like your little divider pieces can be little thin, skinny lines. So the outline should be a thicker blue, and then it should thin out in the middle, in the center. So here's a thick line. And then once I complete that, then I can come back and do a little thin line. Do you get what I'm saying? And some of them can have 2 lines going through them. Some of them don't need any lines at all. You just do the one clump of hair, and the more variety you do, the better it's going to look. If you stick to the same thing the whole way through, you're going to start to feel really repetitive and really boring. So try to change them up as you go. So this one I'm doing 2, and then right about here I'm creating a little bit of a shadow by thinning out that blue, because it's coming out from behind the back of the neck, so you want to cast a little bit of a shadow. Doesn't have to do anything crazy, but it should show there's a bit of difference. And you can always go reverse and bring the other color back of blue and just kind of hide things that maybe you don't like. Maybe you do something too thick, you do something too thin, you make a mistake like I just did, and that's okay. I try to just go slow, but I do have the shakes. I've always been that way ever since I was a little kid. So I've just kind of learned to work with it. Oh, what do you say? Don't know why, but watching you paint line work is so relaxing. Well, thank you. It's really relaxing to do. I just get frustrated because I want it done so fast. And with Procreate on my machine, you know, I can do it really quickly. And then when I hand paint, it's like, oh man, I'm gonna be here a while. So these ones I've decided I'm gonna make really dark and bring highlights into them and go reverse basically what I'm doing. So now go this way. I need some more paint. Try not to do anything the exact same, because when you do, it gets really boring. Okay? Some of my paint is fading out, so I'm just going to keep restocking here. Learning line work with a paintbrush is something I suggest even if you don't paint, because if you can do line work with a paintbrush, you can do line work with anything, markers, pencils, etc. I'm telling you, every time I bring up face painting, it's because of how many skills I learned from doing it. Painting on wiggly children, you know, and you're trying to do line work like this, and they want the character to look the way they want, you know, and they're like, doesn't look like it. You're like, well, you didn't hold still, you wiggly little one. So I always remind people, I bring it up all the time, not because I'm talking about past here and what I did, but these are all things that you can even practice on family members if you have the right stuff, the right face painting tools. But if you ever get into face painting, it is a really great way to learn how to paint quick, sufficiently, and you'll start to see things a lot different because you paint in globs and then you do your line work over it, as opposed to drawing all your line work first. So I always tell people I would have to draw a glob, and almost like a cloud, you could see what you're gonna, you know, you could see the little character coming to life, and that's how I got really fast. So many people meet and they're like, wow, you paint really fast, so you don't charge a lot. I'm like, no, I got fast from lots of practice and skill, so that's what you're paying me for. It's not a timed talent, it's the talent you're paying for. So, yeah. All my friends that have done face painting would feel the same way. It's just we got really quick at doing line work. But I mess up all the time. You know, I get impatient and don't create the best things. I want it to look a certain way and it doesn't, and I get all frustrated and cranky. But I think that's a lot of us. So as you can see, all these little areas that are really thick, I just know, okay, when that's dry, I'll go back with the other color I started with, and I will lighten everything. So that's why I'm never like, oh man, I messed up. But when kids watch you, or even family, they'll be like, oh, you missed a spot. Oh, you did. And I'm like, yes, I know. I'm going back over it later. First, let me finish what I'm doing. Because when you can see the whole picture, that's when it starts to look much better. Okay, so the unicorn hair, oh, sorry guys. I know, it slid down. The unicorn hair is pretty much done. On the camera, it doesn't look as pretty in coloring as the page does. But now I'm going to take that same line brush and use the opposite color. I'm going to go back to my light blue. And here's where I'm going to go. Because now that dark color doesn't need to be at the forefront. Now I can switch it out with the color I want to stand out. And that's why we usually do dark to light. So as the light starts to fade over it, boom, it covers it up really nicely. Pulling back, because I want the dark to still be there where the shadow would be. But I want it to end on a bright tone. So I'm thinning out my really thick lines by doing these softer ones. Okay, right here. And this one I noticed I did it wrong, so this hair should be kind of floating. Floating off the back. So it should go down. Alright, so texture is okay. It doesn't have to be perfect lines. The more I let my brush dry out, the better it's going to start to look. Because then it's like a natural texture with that fade. Alright, so that's done. I'm going to start to prep my horn for some line work. And I'm going to use that same blue. Only, I'm going to kind of mix it with some gray. So I take the blue, I take a hint of gray. Again, I'm trying to avoid black unless it's for the eyelashes. And these two is going to kind of become like this bluish gray color. And now I can do my line work with the horn. I want to make sure no water is running down, because if it does, it's going to be a big old glob on the horn. Okay, and then I'm going to go down the other side. And again, if it gets too thick or I don't do my line work right, I will go opposite with the colors I started with. Horns are tricky because if they're not precise, you know, they can get a little off. Okay, I'm going to move my canvas because I can tell my hand doesn't want to do it there. It keeps getting longer and longer. I want that. Okay, I'm okay with that because I know I can work with it. Alright, so now I'm going to go back to that light color that I first started with. Oh, you saw that water come down? That's because my brush went into my paint water really low. And I'm going to let that dry for a minute. I'm just going to catch this water right here. Alright, so I'll be lightening that and adding glitter to it, but as you can see, it got a little thick at the top, but I just keep moving every time. Doesn't matter. Cannot sit there and worry about something if I can't fix it right then and there. So I redirect my attention. I'm going to use a purple. And I'm going to mix it with a bit of the lavender. So I'm taking purple and lavender. I'm mixing it on the side here, but I want it to be more of the darker purple. But I need a little bit of the lavender to lighten it. And this is going to be her little lines for her dress. Okay, so I also want to include some of this under the ruffles. And if your ruffles aren't showing up, like mine have started to kind of fade since it gets lighter as it goes, I'm going back to my purple. And I'm adding a little bit more with the ruffles. Every time I say ruffles, I think of the chips. Okay, now I'm going to use that yellowish. Remember I told you I was going to mix yellow and white a bit? Here's where that's going to come in. Whoop. Yellow and white's going to go on the hair. So I'm going to take my acrylic white, putting it down, and then I have a softer yellow. Excuse me, I have a softer yellow. Where is it? That's always the question I ask myself. Eva. Okay. Hold on. Let me think about this. There it is. This one is cream yellow. Has more yellow tone to it, but it's on the white side as opposed to like just a really bright yellow. So see? And then I'm just going to keep adding some white to that because it's a little too yellow. I want our hair still to be the way it is. Just a kick a yellow to it. So I'm mixing again more of my acrylic white. And now I can start to brush that in. And again, a bit of the dry brush will help. So it's just picking up a light fade of it. That way it's not just beige, it has some other kind of color to it. Hopefully, yeah, that's kind of reading for you guys. And I need a little bit more. Just a little bit. And then just like the mane, we have to sit there and go back and do all of our hair lines. So it helps to kind of just throw in highlights here and there, not like do the entire thing highlights. But if there's just a few, it kind of breaks up one color and gives multiple looks to it. And I have that one on the cheek. White on that. Okie dokie. Now I want to add the highlight to her cheek, and then the lips and the eyes and the eyebrows. So we do a highlight on the cheek. Oops, I don't have enough white. White on the cheek, and I kind of press down if it's too much just to give it a little fade. Lips, she has very soft pink colored lips, so I'm going back to coral, adding just a teeny bit to white. So I don't want it to be the same color as the I don't want to be the same color as the nose and the cheeks, so I might have to add a little bit to it. If that ever happens, just press down. Let's see, maybe that pink isn't perfect. Let's do this hot pink with it because it was starting to look too much. Yes, there we go. So this is the pink I used around the edges, and I mix it in with a little bit of white, and then I bring a little bit of the coral into it. So that way her lips are very soft colored. And I'm realizing, okay, maybe the nose can't be as rosy so that we can get everything in there. So now I'm going to paint a little bit over that with the flesh color. So sometimes it's just a matter of going back over things and going, okay, that can't work because that color's too similar. Soften that. Alright, now that her lips are down, I make the bottom one, or the top one darker than the bottom one. So I'm taking straight coral from the paint tube, and I'm just doing the highlight on top, or the low light I should say, on top, and then I just outline the bottom lip with that same color. Okay, and then you're gonna get both colors in there. Okay, so there's her lips. Now we've got her eyelashes. Oh, sorry. We're gonna do her eyebrow, which I'm using a raw sienna. Raw sienna is like a goldish brown, almost like a mustard yellow brown. Okay, and this is a very common color you'll find in painting kits. Raw sienna and burnt umber. Those are like two browns you'll see. Okay, so now we do her eyebrow. And again, she's kind of got the worried eyebrow. It's very soft, kind of upward. Okay. And I need her little star to have a color. So since I used coral on the last one, I'm going to try to keep it in that scheme. But I am mixing it with that pink I really like. Keep it bright. Alright, I'm doing the star, the big line, and the crisscross at the top, and then it fades under her hair. So I want her lips to be different color than that, so I might let the lips be a little bit darker, because she's already fair-skinned, and if I keep going any fairer with the lips, they're going to disappear. So the best thing to do would be to bring in another color for the top of the lip, since the color I really like. But now I want to darken that top lip, so I'm just getting a little bit of rose, and I just color in again just the top. And a little bit of the color at the very bottom of the bottom lip, just to tie it in. This is super subtle. Okay, so now she has her colors. Everything's there. I'm going to do some line work for her skin tone. That way we can make the eyelashes over the eyelid. So with raw sienna, I'm going to take coral. Now this is a lot of practice, guys, learning all this stuff. So I don't want anyone being upset if they don't have these colors. You have to just add things to your kit if you continue to paint. That's why I'm able to go much faster, because the colors are already there. Now I just have to mix them together. Okay, so let me switch sides here. There we go. All right, while this is damp, I'm gonna do her face. All the line work on her face. It's a little bit of a brownish tone. And right there, instead of just leaving two big lines, I'm gonna use some water. As soon as I get done with this, before it dries, I'm gonna blend it. So I'm taking my water only, and I'm starting to blend the color I just laid down. Kind of like a watercolor, it softens it. And I just go back and forth until it fades out. If you want to fade some of your line work, you can do that too. Soften it. And I'm going to do a little bit more before I lose all my paint. So here's her neck. I'm going to draw a little bit of a shadow with that color and soften it with my hand. And if you want to add anything else, you can. I think that's pretty much it. If you want to add like a dip for her neck, it's kind of tricky. I still have a hard time figuring out where those go, so don't feel obligated to do that. It's just something I want to kind of add myself. Again, her little her eyeshadow, if you will. I don't think they had eyeshadow in this time that this was filmed, but you know, the girl found some eyeshadow. And now I'm using black again, thinning it out, using some water, and I'm going to add my eyelashes. And more water, just to keep thinning it out, but without dripping everywhere. Kind of knock off some of that water on a paper towel. Keep my brush pointy by rolling it in the paint. And then put on that other eyelash. thick you go with the eyelashes and stuff is up to you. How many little wings you add on them, up to you. That's your choice. I'm going to use just regular purple for line work. So I'm thinning this out with water as well. And we're just about done. And it will be embellishments and all the fun stuff. Alright, so I'm just kind of adding a little bit of a swirl and then fading it with my hand to show underneath the little shadow from her little ruffles. You can even add more to it and then do your highlight of color again, but I'm just kind of letting it be. Okay, moving down, these. Now we've got her sleeve. And I draw a couple little wrinkles in her sleeve very, very lightly. Maybe her little top has a little bit of ruffles in it, just from being on her. Okay. And as it's fading out, I'm creating a second row to these ruffles. I just don't want super bright purple like I did on the stitching. I just rather have just a little idea of a darker purple down there. Okay, so there's that. Now we do her hair. And for this, I'm gonna be mixing raw sienna, and I'm gonna test out a few colors. I don't even know how I wanna do this, but I need it still in that kind of soft beige tone, and since beige seemed to be the color mostly I used underneath, I'm just adding like a raw sienna to it. I think that's what I want to go with. So sometimes you just know because you work with your colors a lot, but to keep it in the same color scheme, you got to pull in those colors you are already using. So I'm going to use a little bit first of all on her eyebrow because it's much softer looking. I'm going to get more beige and mix it in because I think we can keep that dark tone enough with how light her hair is. Okay, now that I have a lot of it mixed, I'm going to clean off my brush on the paper towel, and that way no water is running down. And I'm going to test this theory out, and I'm pretty happy with it. I think I might need to go a little darker, but now I'm doing all of this, and then I'll use my bright colors again to finish up her hair. So again, some different line work, just like we did for the unicorn. We can go thick and we can go dark because then we can come back with the light colors and go over it. Just want to make sure all of the black is hidden because then your line work won't look as pretty. Because the black lines are just really sharp, and in a lot of classic cartoons you'll see a lot of black lines. Flintstones, Scooby-Doo, they aren't going to use similar skin or like tone to the color you're using. So that's where you have to decide, you know, do you want it just to be black line work, or do you want it to be a soft color to make it all kind of flow together? She has some different bangs. I'm kind of floating around. I'm probably gonna have to mix some more. I might not finish this completely today. I do have to run to the post office before it closes, and we're just about done. I'm probably gonna go live on Instagram to do all of my glitter and gold in a little bit today when I get back. So if you miss it here, because I have to go, just know I'll go live around like 5:30 on my Instagram live, and I will do the gold and glitter. And then tomorrow I will auction this. So if you're like, I need this in my life, I'll put it as an auction there so everyone gets a chance. And yeah. But I hope you guys learned some good stuff, or you just had some fun, or you're looking forward to working on it when you can. Always fast forward the beginning of these videos because that's when I'm emailing it to everyone. As I always say, I can't set it up like a Zoom meeting where I get the link first. I kind of have to start the video in order to send it to everybody. Alright, and I'm going to do a little bit of gray for the outline of the unicorn, and I'm going to fix that horn a bit. Oh, see? Too thick. Too much water. Pressing down and lifting. Okay, no more water. Whoa. Okay. So I'm trying to do thin lines in gray. Anywhere I messed up, I'll go back later and work on it. But for now, I'm just trying to get it as complete as possible so you guys feel like, okay, this looks fairly similar, but we are going to be different. We are going to be unique. And just a reminder, this is not to sell online. If you decide to make it, this is concept art by myself, and I would just ask that you please not sell the link. Please don't share the link to this video, because that defeats the whole purpose of why we do the exclusive subscription. So please, please, please keep this to yourself. And like I always say, the concept is something where you have to come up with an idea and how you're going to do it. And since I spend time doing that, this becomes, yes, fan art. It's another person's character. However, I took the time to make it the way I want it to be. So that's why we always say, don't, if you make the piece, don't sell it. You didn't design it. You didn't make it. You copied and made it in your own style. And that's awesome. But not for sale to others. Alright. So here's where I'm going to add my little shine back. I'm just going to do some of these kind of lines. Alright, I think for this top part, I'm going to have to wait a bit until my camera's not on. I'm so sorry, but getting at that angle, I'm going to have to flip it, and it's not even going to be something you can see. Sometimes I have to do things privately, you guys, because it's the way I'm working. It has to be right over it. Right now, I cannot be right over my work. So, okay. Well, if you guys have any questions, anytime after this video, you're always welcome to write me and ask. That is kind of what you're paying for. I will help the best I can. If you want to share this and you tag me and you don't say anything, I will repost it because I'm so proud of you guys. So please, 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 if you're just trying to show me, you have to say, like, Eva, this is just for your eyes. Please don't repost. I just wanted you to see what I did. If you're like totally cool with me sharing that you worked on it, that's fine. Just don't say anything at all. Share it with me. Post it in your stories. If you're on private, I can't share it. And I probably can't even see it, because if you're on private, then I can't see your work either. Okay, so about 5:30, I'll see you guys back here. I hope you have a wonderful time. And again, if you're interested in bidding on this, tomorrow I will start the bidding at about $50, and this is an 8x8. So I hope you guys enjoyed it and